It's a little terrifying because you absolutely cannot miss.
Goalies now are completely at a premium.
Not, right? Like, Canada doesn't have a ton of great options.
Hockey fans, this is The Big Show, brought to you by the Hockey News. I'm Michael Traikos. With me is Ryan Kennedy and Drew Shore, and let's get right into it. We're finally here. We got the Stanley Cup final. Ryan, you're live in Raleigh, North Carolina. You were there for game one. What a wild game it was. Vegas Golden Knights erasing a 2-0 deficit to come back and win 5-4 in a game that hopefully is a precursor of what we're going to see in this series, Ryan. But what did you make of a wild back and forth offensive display by both the Carolina Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights in game one?
The first thing that came to mind for me is that mistakes were really magnified in this game. Like, these are two teams that will really jump on you, if you do something wrong. And the best example for me was the Jordan Staal goal. Noah Hannafin with a weak clearing attempt. Keandre Miller keeps it in, feeds it to Staal. It's in the back of the Vegas net. On the other hand, the William Karlsson goal, Mitch Marner with the great feed from behind the net. But where were Carolina's defenders? Like, William Karlsson had so much space. It felt like they were chasing Marner. They forgot about one of the original Golden Misfits, who just happens to be very good in the playoffs himself. It's in the back of the net. So I think, it's something where we'll probably see a bit of tightening up for game two. But, game one, some fantastic fireworks led by Nikolai Ehlers and his two breakaways.
Yeah, three breakaways, I think, in the first period alone. And Ehlers was good on both attempts. Logan Stankoven was denied by Carter Hart. But, Drew, we thought this was going to be a defensive juggernaut of a series, kind of a low-scoring, maybe even, dare I say, a boring Stanley Cup final. It's still early. We could see, as Ryan just pointed out, teams tightening up. But did we kind of overlook how offensive both Carolina and Vegas are going into this final?
I don't think so. I think I was just surprised. Like, I don't know how many grade A scoring chances there were in the game last night, but it had to have been 3 or 4 games worth of grade A scoring chances in one game. Like, I could see there were probably 20 grade A's. I could see the next 3 games going by with not as many, but I was shocked by the start. But what a great start from a fan perspective to kick this series off.
Hey, Ryan, Brett Howden continues to do it for Vegas. And if you didn't know who Brett Howden was going into the playoffs, you certainly do now. He is now the solo goal leader in the playoffs with 11 goals. And not bad for a guy who's signed for $2.5 million annual average value as a contract. And he signed up until 2030. How big of a steal is this for Vegas to have a guy playing on your second line with Mitch Marner, who's able to score like this, and he's only making $2.5 million a year?
Yeah, pretty fantastic. And, I'm sure for Brett Howden, when he signed that, he was like, hey, I got a lot of security here. This is great. I'm in Vegas. It's a winning culture. But I think the key, and, John Tortorella mentioned this after the game last night, is, everybody likes playing in the playoffs, but certain players embrace the playoffs, how hard it is. And Brett Howden is one of those players. And I know, speaking with Brett Howden, on media day, he talked about, and actually speaking with him after game one as well, he talked about, like, he loves playing a north-south game, and that's great in the playoffs. But what I thought was very interesting is if you think about the chemistry of that line with Marner and Karlsson, like William Karlsson, who missed a lot of the year due to injury, he is the epitome of a two-way forward, right? He is their center. He is their glue. He's the most responsible one, I should say, because Marner's responsible too. Same with Howden. But, Brett Howden was saying, like, I'm a north-south guy. Mitch Marner's an east-west guy. So we really play well off each other because, Howden can create, space for Mitch Marner. And you don't want to give Mitch Marner space because he's got the puck on his stick a lot and he can do a lot of wonderful things with it. So I think this is a great situation for Brett Howden, and he's really taking advantage of it. And obviously for Vegas, they're getting what's essentially a top-line scorer for fourth-line money.
Yeah, Brett Howden, 12 goals in the regular season. He's one away from that in the playoffs, which is just, again, incredible. But I think it speaks to Vegas and just the amount of firepower they have at their disposal. And Drew, this is a team that, Jack Eichel, Thomas Hertl, who gets the winner. Ryan mentioned Mitch Marner, like William Karlsson, who's been a big time goal scorer in the past. Are we really should we be surprised that this Vegas team now has had 6 comeback wins in these playoffs, and this is their second straight comeback or second straight win with a multi-goal comeback?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as much firepower as they have offensively, that still just doesn't happen very often in playoffs. I think there was a clip that was leaked from the bench. I don't know if you guys saw it. I think when Torts brought them in when they were down 2-0, kind of just basically saying that there's so much time left in this game that basically don't throw away the game and start panicking now. And you could kind of tell that every guy on the bench kind of had confidence in what he was saying. Sometimes coaches will say that and there's not really much belief, but I mean, people do forget. I mean, he did score 23 goals last year and he was a first round pick. So I mean, he obviously has a little more offensive upside. I just think he hasn't really been put in positions in Vegas historically. And now you see he's playing with guys like you guys just mentioned. I mean, you bring in Marner as well, who's one of the most offensive playmakers in the league. That I don't know how many goals he scored shorthanded, but I feel like he scored three or four of his goals even shorthanded. And I mean, to win the Stanley Cup, I mean, they got everyone going at the right time right now. And it was Hertl, actually, I feel like at the beginning of the playoffs, I think he had that 29 goalless drought dating back to the regular season. Now it looks like he's got some confidence. I read that article that he got a call from Joe Pavelski. I don't know how much validity was that, but it sounded like that was pretty cool of a former teammate to help a guy who is struggling. And I mean, now they're going to be Carolina couldn't have asked for a better start, but at Vegas stealing game 1, it's going to make it a tough climb for Carolina.
And actually, Drew, Thomas Hertl, after game 1, he did talk about that Joe Pavelski phone call. He said Pavelski called him. They talked for about a half hour. And then the next game against Anaheim, he scored. So he was cool. I really appreciated it. We've been texting, ever since. And it was clearly, that goal last night, a big load off Hertl's mind because he still only has 4 goals in the playoffs.
Right. I wonder if Cam Ward is giving Freddie Andersen a call, Ryan, because, this wasn't a typical game from Freddie Andersen in these playoffs. Most untypical, I guess, if that's a word, is the fact that he faced a ton of shots. And for a guy that was averaging 11 to 12 shots per game against the Montreal Canadiens, 23 shots faced is a lot for Freddie Andersen. Scale of 1 to 10, Ryan, how concerned are you that, Andersen is starting to let these goals in, or is this a case of Montreal got to Andersen in game 1, but then that was really it?
I'm honestly, I'm going to say an 8 or a 9. Yeah, because here's the thing. In that Montreal series, I was kind of joking, his save percentage was getting wrecked because he was giving up 2 goals on 13 shots. But that's not good because that's 4 goals on 26 shots, right? If you extrapolate like that. And I just worry that Andersen had been protected so much by his defense that maybe Carolina was masking, a goaltender that is good, but not as great as a lot of people were making him out to be. And I think game 1 was a bit of a wake-up call. We were even talking in the press box. It's does he get the hook at some point? Do they worry about him facing a lot of rubber in this game and kind of getting exposed? But on the other hand, Brandon Bussi hasn't played in the playoffs, so that wouldn't be very fair to toss, a young pro who has never been in the, NHL playoffs before into the fire of the Stanley Cup Finals. So you hope that Andersen rebounds, but I am certainly concerned. I've kind of had concerns all the way, but it just hasn't borne out because Carolina has been such a defensive force in front of them.
What do you make of that, Drew? Do you share Ryan's concerns? He said, what, an 8 out of 10 for level of concern. And, it's been the one area where you haven't had to really think too much about these whole playoffs. Freddie's got, 3 shutouts and, say what you want about the save percentage. The goals against is very, very low. But does this kind of give you pause going forward in the series?
Yeah, it does. And I don't like bringing this up. First of all, I like Freddie Andersen. Think he's a great guy and great goalie, but it does bring a little bit of Colorado Avalanche similarities to my mind, just in a sense that they kind of got through the season with great goaltending by the numbers standpoint, but I think they definitely had an amazing team that was pretty much just steamrolling guys. And then I think that kind of eventually caught up to Colorado. So, I do think Carolina is going to play better defensively throughout the rest of the series. Like, I think that, unfortunately for Freddie Andersen, like you guys talked about, I think Carolina made a lot of mistakes defensively that I don't think they're going to make going forward. So I think it's a little bit of a combination of both. I'm concerned that, Carolina is willing to give up that much. But, like you guys talked about, this Vegas team offensively is very dynamic. And if Carolina isn't on top of their game defensively, he's going to be in big trouble.
All right. Last word on the Cup final here. Going into Game 2, is it a must-win for Carolina, Ryan? You don't want to go down 2-0 heading into Vegas. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I kind of do feel like it's must-win because Vegas, like the atmosphere in Carolina was fantastic. Amazing fans, very loud. No complaints there. I've been to Vegas for the Stanley Cup final. It is just as loud, maybe even a little louder. So if you go down 2-0, and Vegas is at home and they smell blood, that's going to be difficult. And especially with a Vegas team that, is also very good defensively and has a ton of experience. That's the thing, is like almost everybody on Vegas has won a Stanley Cup. Now, a few guys have not, famously Mitch Marner, but most of them have won. So when they got down 2-0, they were, and again, we talked about that media timeout in Tortorella. It was like, hey, be patient, trust your game. Like, trust yourselves. You guys know what you can do. So, yeah, Game 2 feels like a must-win for Carolina.
You, Drew, any predictions going into Game 2? Do we think Carolina bounces back?
Yes. I don't know if they're going to bounce back, but I agree with Ryan, and I would love to hear the stats on this. Like, you can drop the first 2 games on the road and still be okay. But I think, I would love to know the stats historically, like the last 10 years, about teams who have dropped the first 2 at home and then go on to win the series. And like Ryan said, especially with how hard Vegas is to win in general, I think this is 100% a must-win game for Carolina.
Yeah, we'll see. Ryan's going to be down there for the coverage along with David Alter. Read all about it at thehockeynews.com. But let's shift gears here. Let's talk about my favorite team to talk about. The drama never ends. The Toronto Maple Leafs set to interview now Patrick Roy and Peter Laviolette. These are according to reports from TSN's Darren Dreger. And to bring us up to speed, Patrick Roy last coached the New York Islanders earlier this season before being replaced by Peter DeBoer, while Peter Laviolette last coached another team in New York, the Rangers, before being replaced by Mike Sullivan. Drew, Roy or Laviolette? First off, do you like the options? And is there one that you kind of like one more than the other?
No, the option is Dave Carl. Dave Carl should be coaching.
That ship has sailed, Drew.
That is who should be coaching. I don't really love either fit, to be honest. I think that, it's pretty clear they're going to have to go through what could be a pretty difficult rebuild here, and it's going to force them to play a lot of young players in their lineup and kind of build this thing back from the ground up. So I don't necessarily love those fit. I think both of those guys are great coaches, but I would like to see, I think those guys are both better fits in an Edmonton right now than I do Toronto.
Yeah,
Ryan, what do you think?
I agree. I will say, with Patrick Roy, at least, you have a coach that's really going to go to war for his players. We saw that with the Islanders and, his vendetta against Mikko Rantanen. And I do think in a way, an Austin Matthews needs that. I think he needs backing, but strategically and sort of long-term planning, is Patrick Roy the right guy? I don't know. We've talked about this in the past. I keep looking at what John Gruden is doing with the Toronto Marlies right now in the AHL playoffs. And I'm like, that's a guy that has NHL experience as, an assistant coach. He's been a head coach, obviously, in the AHL. Is he the kind of guy that you kind of want to build up and have him grow with this new Leafs team that is most likely going to have Gavin McKenna, this new Leafs team that is going to need more from an Easton Cowan in the future, who is currently playing for John Gruden with the Marlies. That to me is sort of it feels like a better concept.
Yeah, it feels like they know Gruden's there, and they're going to go through this whole interview process. And if they don't like what they see from any of the guys they've talked to, then they could always go to a Gruden. And maybe it feels like they're just checking a lot of boxes. But I'm kind of with you. Like, Drew, you kind of mentioned like David Carl. That's still that would be the ideal guy. But maybe someone younger, someone who, like Ryan mentioned, like is not a retread. And
you see a Hocus with Kitchener.
Yeah. Maybe that's another option. Do you feel like you don't feel like he needs to go to the American Hockey League first, though?
I mean, maybe, but like, if you like if he's your guy, like, can you really tell him to like go to the American League first?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, watching that Kitchener team this year, like, they played winning playoff hockey, right? Like, and, a Hocus, his players said, like, he's a teacher. So it kind of feels like he's a guy that could elevate the Leafs. Maybe not immediately, but, sort of for better in the long term.
Yeah, Drew, you like kind of going for the younger option, eh?
Yeah, I just think based on where they're at and kind of the cycle and what's going to be entailed for the next couple of years, I think all those guys are good options. I don't know the guy in the Marlies, but I mean, obviously he's doing a great job with the young players they have now. They're still playing hockey in the early part of June, so he's doing something right there.
Former NCDP coach.
There we go. Then hire him. Perfect.
Yeah. For Austin Matthews, no less.
He checks all the boxes. What you're saying, Ryan. Like, you want a development coach, you want someone that has familiarity with a lot of the players like Easton Cowan or Akhtiamov, who's down with the Marlies, as well as you want someone who's got, Austin Matthews on board. So I'm with you. And, you've been a proponent of this the whole way. We'll see how it ends up. Yesterday, which was Tuesday, for those who are joining us, regardless of the day of the week, Gary Bettman and Bill Daly and I guess a few others were announcing that the NHL has now formalized plans for the 2027 All-Star Game. We're looking at a 3-on-3 tournament, a round-robin tournament featuring players from Canada, the U.S., Sweden, Finland, and what's been called a, I guess, rest of the world team. They're going to have to come up with a better name, Ryan, on that. But what do you make of the round robin? And then we'll talk about the skills competition after.
I like that they're going to the international format. It's been basically 2 decades since they last had that, where it was sort of North America versus the world. And Marty Walsh from the Union was there, Ron Hainsey too, and they were saying, every All-Star game in every sport gets stale, right? Yeah. So they like the idea of trying something new. It's interesting because the round robin, I think the games are only like 4 minutes long or something like that. Which, it's like, I get it. You only have 11 it's gonna be like 11 players per team. No one, it's like, I guess they kind of care to win, but because there's $2 million on the line, but at the same time, it's like, it is still an all-star game. And then the finals 10 minutes. My only question is, like, when we actually see the final rosters, are there some teams, particularly that world team, where we're like, oh, we're missing like a bunch of guys that should be there? Because that's like Russia, the Czechs, the Swiss. So
Germany as well.
Leon Draisaitl, Moritz Seider. So how many of those can you cram onto an 11-player roster?
The bigger question for me is, does 4 minutes allow enough time for Sam Bennett to fight Matthew Tkachuk in the U.S.-Canada game?
Opening faceoff.
What do you think, Drew?
I don't know. I like where they're going with this. I like when this game, I think they've done such a bad job kind of in the past about this of like, I've been to a couple of the All-Star games. They've tried different formats. Like, I love, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like in baseball, they play for home field during the World Series, which is like obviously a huge deal, right? It's obviously the best players who are all trying to win the cup. So, Yes, the money is a huge incentive, so that'll get guys to play harder than they would have played otherwise. But I like the NHL moving in the direction of trying to bring out the best in these guys. And so whether it's a monetary compensation or if they ever did do like an old school Eastern Western Conference game for home ice in the Stanley Cups, like I think that would bring the best out of these players. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, $2 million cash prize. It feels like the last time they did this cash prize was like $1 million. So I guess inflation.
Yeah.
it's
Cap's going up, revenue's going up.
They got to put gas in their GMC Yukons.
The other thing, before we move on, is the skills competition was it under 25? So I kind of like that. You're giving a lot of opportunities to younger players who probably won't be in the All-Star game, but at the same time, for a guy like Matthew Schaefer, who I expect to be at the All-Star game, does he do the skills competition and the round robin, Ryan? Like, do you like this, limiting it to young and old kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't mind it. And I mean, clearly Schaefer is going to be there because it's hosted by the Islanders. So he's going to be, a focal point of the entire weekend. I do, because I mean, if we've learned anything, it's that, the skill level of players just continues to rise in this era. And if you think about like Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, Matthew Schaefer, some of those young superstars that we're going to get to see, even Lane Hudson for that matter, you think about his puck skills, putting them in a skills competition is going to be very fun. And I also think there's less cynicism, right? Like I remember years ago, when they were trying to find players at the All-Star game to be in the fastest skater competition, nobody wanted to do it because they're like, we're going to lose to McDavid. So I don't even want to participate. And they basically had to strong arm guys and be like, just do it. Like, come on here. So with guys 25 and under, it's a little easier. They're more into it, I would think.
They're all going to lose to Matthew Schaefer though, right?
And they might.
Hey, Drew, sorry to put you on the spot here, but who of the young guys, who's going to have the hardest shot? Like, that seems like you need like man strength, like dad strength for that kind of thing to fire a slap shot. Is there going to be, are we going to see slap shots in the 70s or the 80s? Like, these guys don't even use stiff stick.
I know, but some of these kids can still rip it. But like what Ryan said, I like it. I think it does, like, all those older guys who have been in the league, like Connor McDavid does not want to have to warm up to protect himself from getting hurt, deal with like the nonsense of a one lap. So I also think it's a great way for the league. I know that Schaefer will probably be in both, but most of the guys probably won't. So it'll be guys who are just good players on younger players who the NHL can expose from that standpoint. So I really think it's cool what they're doing with that.
All right. A couple other things that came out of Tuesday's press conference with the NHL and NHLPA is Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly said the NHL is not in favor of the NCAA potentially changing athlete eligibility to 5 years after they turn 19 years old or graduate high school, whichever one comes first. Daly said that the NHL, CHL, USHL, and USA Hockey and College Coaches Association have all raised concerns to the NCAA. Ryan, what do you think about this potential change? Are you in favor of the NCAA potentially changing this eligibility, or should they leave it the same?
Well, the big problem here is that the NCAA is trying to have a blanket policy for all its sports. They don't want a carve out that's sports specific, which is what hockey is asking for, just because it is a different, it's a different situation from football and basketball. Everything that's going on in the US right now is based around football and basketball. So I understand why the NHL is upset. I understand why a lot of these feeder teams are upset, especially if you're like the USHL right now and you're losing talent to the CHL. The kids you're replacing with might be those kids that are going to be around for a couple of years before they go to university. I would also assume that, a lot of the smaller D1 schools that rely on those older, quote unquote, freshmen, this would really hurt them. So part of me is like, that sort of joke from, I think it was Tommy Boy, where it's like, yeah, you went to school until you're 25. Are you a doctor? Like, but that's the reality, right? Some guys take longer. before they actually go to university. And, I would think a lot of teams from like Atlantic Hockey or the CCHA would be impacted by this. So I'm kind of two minds. To me, it's like, if you graduated high school, like I'll give you like 1 year and then you go to university. But after that, it's like, it's the old Matt Gilroy winning the Hobey Baker at 25, 26 years old. He should have a mortgage by then. But I also understand that like every player's path is different and some need longer to be ready for the NCAA game.
Speaking of which, there was also talk about raising the age of eligibility for when you're draft eligible. And the NBA, it's 19 years old. The NHL, we know it's 18 years old. Drew, and Gary Bettman sounded like he was maybe in favor of raising the age, Ryan, to 19.
I wouldn't go that far. I think they kind of said, I think Daly said that the last time they really talked about it was kind of 10 years ago. And it feels like everybody's fine with how it is right now.
But would that kind of go hand in hand with this kind of change? Like if you're going to say, changing eligibility 5 years after they turn 19 or graduate high school, that almost falls in line of you got to change the draft age to 19.
Well, I think a little bit of it is like it just would force a lot of like one and dones like you see in basketball these days where like a guy goes to school for 4 or 5 months before he ends up leaving school after one season at like a Duke or North Carolina. But I made a joke about this. I mean, I think the NCAA has to do something. Like now you're getting these kids who I saw a kid the other day who played in the CHL till he was 20, played 2 years in like the East Coast League, like full seasons, and now is like starting college as like a 23 or even like a 23-year-old freshman who's going to be 24. So like this kid could graduate at 28 years old. So I don't really necessarily like their new proposed rule, but they have to put some type of cap in place. Like whether it's, I don't think they should necessarily change I don't think it should be by number of years. I think it's almost more of an age thing. Like I said, I think it hurts too many of the schools and players to say you can't play 2 years of junior after you graduate. But I think at the same time, maybe it's like you can't enter your senior year like later than 24 years old at that point, or you're just not eligible. So I like them doing something. I just don't think what they're proposing makes much sense.
Yeah. It sounds like we're going to get a NHL version of the Chad Powers show that's airing right now. It's the former pro player going back to the school and dominating, wearing a wig. We'll see.
I'm going to go back for a year.
Yeah, do it.
Win a Hobey Baker.
Perfect. The Hockey News can give me some NIL money. I'll go play for like the University of Toronto. It'll be great.
There you go.
I love it. All right. For over 75 years, the Hockey News has been the ultimate hockey fix. Now get 12 issues delivered straight to you, packed with stories, stats, and a bonus gift issue to kick things off. Head over to thn.com and get in on the action. And with that, we go to the action of rapid fire. And Ryan, let's start things off with the Stanley Cup final. Who was your game one MVP?
I'm going to go with Shea Theodore in Vegas. There was a lot of great performances, but he had a goal and he had an awesome assist. And he's been really picking up a lot of slack this season in general with no Alex Pietrangelo. And he's really evolved his game defensively. Kelly McCrimmon talked about it on Media Day. So I'm going to go with Shea Theodore.
Drew?
I'm going to go Mitch Marner. I think he's been fantastic the whole playoffs. He just kept it going. He's just really been the ultimate playoff guy, and I look forward to watching him win a Stanley Cup.
All right, you're going to just spend the whole episode trolling Toronto fans. I'm going to troll Winnipeg fans. I'm going to say Nikolai Ehlers was the MVP. Yeah. And, Jets fans, you let one go. You ran him out of town. Why'd you do that? The guy gets 2 goals. He's been tearing it up all playoffs there.
You know what? He's been fantastic too. And like the other thing that people don't realize is like, I think he started the year there so badly too. I think he had like 1 goal in his first 15 or 18 games, and it took him
no
a while.
goals in the first month.
Yeah, no goals the first month. He's playing with like Stahl and Martinook, and I love those guys, but it's not exactly like you're playing with Mark Scheifele anymore from an offensive talent standpoint. So I was fired up to see him get those 2 goals, and like I can't believe that Carolina started that well and then blew the game.
All right, we're going to ask Drew, you're going to put on your Nostradamus hat here, and you're going to say what the biggest thing you're focusing on, or what's going to be the biggest storyline or player after game 1 for the remainder of the series.
Well, unfortunately, I think we talked a lot about it. I think it's going to be Frederik Andersen. I think that Carter Hart's going to continue. I mean, I know he probably obviously got scored on a couple times last night, but he's pretty much been phenomenal all playoffs. And I think that Carolina, like you guys said, just has an interesting thing. Frederik Andersen has played great, but hasn't been tested a lot. So if he does struggle another game, I think that's going to be a huge storyline going forward.
I'm going to go with Sebastian Aho. He was invisible last night. Their power play has been horrendous to watch, not just in game 1, but, dating back to the Eastern Conference series, where I hate to be that fan that's like, shoot, but it feels like he just holds on to the puck forever. That whole line with Jarvis and Svechnikov, I want them to be more aggressive. Like, they're too much on the outside, and it destroys me mentally when they're out on the ice, because I know they're a possession team and everything, and and those are possession guys, but it's like, get to the middle of the ice. You are huge, Svechnikov. Yeah. You are a huge man.
I think you
go to the front of the net.
I think you saw Rod's press conference. I think he made a couple of comments on this, just about like how he needs those guys to get going. But I mean, all 3 of those guys are fantastic players, and Svech specifically is like, I mean, he should be the ideal Evgeny Malkin type player in the playoffs from a physical tool set, and he just hasn't really been able to find that level, which, I mean, they're going to need.
Yeah, I'm going to go Stanky. I think, Stankoven had that breakaway. That line had been fantastic pretty much 3 series prior to this one. So, whether it's Stankoven or Taylor Hall, one of those 2 guys is going to go off in game 2 or onwards. We'll see. The hockey news has been counting down the top 100 players in the NHL. We've been doing that at the hockeynews.com. We're down to, we're getting close to the final 5 here. So at number 5, Leon Draisaitl was listed. And at number 8, we've got Kirill Kaprizov. Ryan, Draisaitl or Kaprizov, who would you rather have on your team? And this is not an easy question.
It's not an easy one. I'm going to go Draisaitl simply because, he's a center. He's a great 2-way player, and we know he can put up triple-digit offense every year, which Kaprizov also does. But I just feel you get a little bit more with Draisaitl, so I'll go with the Oiler.
Drew, this is pick your poison. This is pick your favorite child kind of question here.
Yeah. I'm going to go the same thing, mainly for the center reason, but also he's much cheaper at this point, right? Like, he just signed his deal I think he's at 14.5 versus 17. So I think they are obviously 2 amazing players, but I think if you add that factor in as well, I'll take Draisaitl all day.
All right. We got a little bit more time here, so I'm going to add a couple more questions, put you on the spot. We saw Eric Stahl cranking up the crowd in game 1. Ryan, any predictions who the Carolina Hurricanes are going to roll out for game 2?
You know what? I'll go with Justin Williams, because I saw him at the mornings. Well, yeah, I saw him at the practice before media day, so I know he's in town. And, if you need a win, Justin Williams is, when he played, typically he was the guy that got you the crucial win. So I'll go with Coburg's finest, Mr. Game 6.
Is it Mr. Game 6 or is it not Mr. Game 7?
I'm trying to remember if it was.
I
guess it was Game 7, yeah.
It's Game 7, but he works for the team now, so he's always around down there.
Fair enough. He has his own hot chicken stand there.
Does he?
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Stahl did a good job firing that place up, but I'd like to see them bring out like Coach K from Duke or something, like, you know what I mean? Like someone from the basketball side of things, I think would be really cool. But I don't know if there's a guy who might be in better shape who's going to do a better job than Eric Stahl. He looked pretty good doing it.
Yeah. With Jeff O'Neill, guys. Farmer
Michael
Kane.
Jordan. They need Michael Jordan in the building. Let's get
Wow.
Michael Jordan in the building to crank it up for game 2.
A Tar Heel on Wolfpack territory, though, that might be controversial.
That's
I
true.
love it.
That's
No,
true.
Maybe
it's,
Julius Randle.
honestly, Eric Stahl was giving it, man. Like I've never seen someone put so much effort into cranking that thing around. And people are saying that's a Vegas thing, and is Carolina kind of aping on them? But I love it. So, anyhow. Looking forward to the rest of the series. Looking forward to more coverage from Ryan Kennedy at the final. Like I said, follow the hockeynews.com for all of his coverage. Thank you, Drew Shore, for joining us once again. I'm Michael Traikos. This was The Big Show. We'll see you next time.